like our on-premise licenses, there's just not a whole lot to talk about when you're talking about it on on-premise.
Okay,
Oh,
7 days later.
since,
the subcommittee for the ANC met on Thursday evening, and Alex, would you give the results?
Certainly. Once again, the ABC Licensing Committee met last Thursday to consider the license application and recommended unanimously that the full ANC support the application. And since this is in my single-member district, I'll go ahead and make a motion that ANC 6E support the Grand Kata license for Class A at 1550 7th Street Northwest, and that we communicate that support to the ABC Board.
Okay, all in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, second.
Second.
Second has happened. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone? Okay, I'm sorry, Antonio?
aye.
Okay. One abstention? 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And 5. Yeah, I can't count tonight for love nor money. Gentlemen, congratulations. I'm glad you're in the neighborhood, even though you couldn't
Yeah,
be over by
finally.
me.
No, but great, finally.
But we're glad to have you
Looking
aboard.
forward.
We will send something to the Abra for you.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome.
Mr. Klein.
Mr. Klein?
Mr. Klein, the Bacaro matter?
Yes,
We agreed to defer that?
I suggest that you do what you need to do, because I was unable to reach the client in the last few days, so I don't have authority to extend it. So we understand what you're under, so what I would request is that you go ahead and protest to preserve your rights. Hopefully, well, if you would hold the letter for a week, I'll see if I can get some authority to extend the deadline, and then you just won't file it. That's what I'd recommend at this point.
Do you want me to take this up now or do it under other business?
We can do it now,
Okay.
since everybody's curious as to what you're talking
So, some folks may have noticed a placard just to the north of Dulce Gelati on the 1400 block of 8th Street for a new wine bar named Bacaro. Because we received notice of the placarding the day after the ANC issued its notice for this meeting, we were unable to include it in the notice, and therefore we're unable to hear this case until our next meeting, which unfortunately falls on the day after the date that the ABC Board has established for any potential protest to be filed. So in order, as Mr. Klein indicated, because he's unable to reach his client, normally we would mutually agree between the ANC and the applicant that we would request an additional week from the ABC Board to be able to get the correspondence to them based on the timing issues. We'll have to go ahead and vote to protest this license, but we'll withdraw that. We won't file the protest if we actually do get concurrence on the deferral of the date for the ANC letter to be sent to the ABC Board. So I will move that ANC 6E protest the liquor license for Bacaro at, what is the address, Mr. Klein? 14,
I don't know offhand.
well, on the 1400 block of 8th Street Northwest, on the grounds of peace, order, and quiet, with the provision that if the applicant agrees to request that the ABC Board extend its deadline for the ANC's correspondence to be submitted by 7 days, then the protest will not be filed, and the Commission will actually hear this case at its meeting on April the 7th. And I would ask for a second.
about. I second.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Nobody's opposed? Yeah. Okay,
Thank
unanimous.
you. We appreciate that common sense approach, and we'll work with you to get the extension. I'm recommending it, but I just haven't been able to reach my client since we talked about it last week.
Very cool. Okay, we're
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you so much for stopping in.
Have a good night.
Next on the agenda is public space for bow tie for an outdoor cafe. Is someone here to represent?
I am.
Oh, Mr.
That's
Klein,
why I'm
you're still
lingering.
here, okay. Before you get started, I just want to recognize Gottlieb Simon. Thank you for stopping by. Gottlieb is the person who oversees all ANCs for the City of Washington and all of its commissioners. Welcome. Thank you for coming. Okay, Mr. Klein, let's hear what you got to say.
I have copies of the drawings. If you don't have them, I'd be happy to pass them down. Great. Ralph Bramham apologizes that he's not here tonight. He's probably well known to many of you because he's operated Bowtie at the other location for quite some time, and he had a shortage of food handlers tonight, so he had to stay in the restaurant, but I'm here to represent the establishment. This is an application for a sidewalk cafe permit unenclosed at 1550 7th Street Northwest. There's 750 square feet total in front of the establishment, which is proposed to be rented. That will leave 9 feet clear between the outer edge of the cafe and the nearest obstruction, which is a tree box. There are tree boxes in front of the cafe. The public space minimum requirement is 10, although the committee has the authority to reduce it as little as 6. Generally, in the non-downtown areas, they will reduce it. We're not asking them to reduce it to 6. We'll be asking them to reduce it to 9. We think that provides plenty of pedestrian passageway on the street. In the 750 square feet, it's contemplated that there will be occupancy of 50 with 4 ADA accessible seats, and it'll be open with chairs, tables, and umbrellas. If you have any questions about the plan, we've already dealt with the ABC part of it and the hours are limited to midnight in accordance with the agreement that we reached with you to amend the application with respect to the ABC license.
So Andrew, this is only the P Street side, right, if I'm reading this correctly?
Correct.
Do you have exterior cameras installed?
Exterior cameras?
Yes.
No.
For safety reasons.
No.
Would they consider it?
I'm sure Ralph will consider it.
I think it needs to be. It's not expensive to put exterior cameras on outside of the property.
Yeah, they were only like about $200 each, so a couple of them.
I can even suggest a service too.
So this outdoor cafe is only going to be on the P Street side
Correct.
between 7th and 8th.
7th in the alley technically, but yeah, 7th.
Oh, before those townhouses.
Yeah.
Okay. And how many seating for how many? I'm sorry.
50.
50.
Mhm.
Okay.
But of course, you know, the committee could revise it, but generally they require 15 square feet per person, and that's exactly the calculation. 750 square feet, 15 square feet per person would net you 50 occupants.
Will it be fenced?
No, he doesn't, he contemplates leaving it open. You'll see, there is, the second page is an elevation drawing, which reflects what it would look like from the street level.
Any temporary ropes?
No,
And then the furniture will be moved inside at night?
the furniture will be moved inside at night, yes.
And the outdoor cafe, I'm sorry, will be open from when to when?
No later than midnight in terms of opening. They'll open for lunch 11:30. I don't think they've exactly determined if they will open for lunch, but if they do open for lunch, they wouldn't open any earlier than 11 or 11:30.
I'm not so worried about that time of the day, more so the later part of the evening when people are getting ready to go, because that's right at, you know, it's on the first level of a
apartment building. So-
Right, and in connection with the ABC license application, we had agreed with you that the hours would be limited to midnight, so they would not close any later than midnight. Which means by midnight, they have to have all patrons off the area, all alcohol off the tables, and be closed up. So generally, I mean, Thai food is consumed sometimes pretty quickly. They could be small portions, but I can't imagine they're seating any later than 11 out there, because you got to give time for people to finish up.
Okay, that's no problem. Alex, is this your area? Go ahead.
So actually, Mr. Klein, I'm not sure whether or not Bowtie will be moving all the furniture inside, or they would just chain it off. I mean, it's possible that it would remain outside, but they would just secure it.
Yeah, they will secure it in some way. I mean, I know the concern is that it not be available for, for vagrants to occupy. So they will deal with that, and I think that's an excellent suggestion. They'll do it the way it's most efficient, either bring it inside or chain it off.
So this location is in my single-member district, and I'll move to support the public space application for Bowtie's unenclosed sidewalk cafe at 1550 7th Street Northwest, and we communicate that support to the District Department of Transportation and the Public Space Committee. And with the proviso that Bowtie installs security cameras that would allow the monitoring of the outdoor seating area.
Okay, we have a motion, do I have a second?
So explain, what did you say about the cameras, Alex, that was your
That
addition?
our support is contingent on their
They're putting some cameras.
installing cameras there.
Question? Risha, question?
No, I mean,
Oh,
I'm not
okay.
sure about, because we've never, for like a approval of a liquor license, that they have to require, we can
No,
suggest
not
that. but
approving liquor license, liquor license
I
is
mean, I'm sorry,
approved.
public space, but, I don't know, just for a public, I just,
Can I comment?
sure.
About a year ago, there was, I don't think I needed, can y'all hear me speak?
You do it as
About a year ago, we had a situation where a couple was eating pizza, and they were held up outside. And that camera caught the face of the perpetrator, and he was arrested. So it's only for the protection of the constituents in the area. Don't trust me?
Okay, let's take a vote.
Was there a second?
Yeah, Rochelle, second. You did?
I say.
Frank, second. Commissioner Wiggins, seconded. Okay, I'm doing well tonight. Okay, let's have a vote. All in favor of supporting, you made the motion, what am I saying? We just need a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
And Rochelle's abstaining, okay, so two abstentions.
Okay. I mean,
So we are two abstentions and four yeses. Okay, so you're
Great.
good to go.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Have a
you,
good
Mr.
evening.
Klein.
Nice to see all of you.
Come back and see us again.
Next month.
Oh, Nick, he's got another place coming up.
We just-
Oh, okay. Alrighty, first zoning issue. 440 Ridge Street. If you would like to do your presentation.
Good evening, nice to see you again. My name is Caterina Freire. I am the owner of a small architecture firm called Architectural, and I have been hired by Nicole Mitchell, who is also present here, to help her in the renovation of her townhouse at 440 Ridge Street. And the project has been through a few revisions. We have been through historic preservation review and did receive approval. We have provided the ANC with the latest rendition of the project, which shows the existing borough house being enlarged slightly to allow for sufficient living space for my client and her family. And in order to accomplish that, we need to increase the lot occupancy from what is currently 60.5% to closer to 68%. And basically, we are replacing an existing one-story rear addition with a three-story addition that comes into the rear yard, an additional 1'8", and that results in that increase in lot occupancy. The property will remain a single-family residence, and the additional space is really required just to accommodate my client's living space needs, and we have been pushed in that direction by historic preservation. Our initial scheme was to keep the footprint exactly the same as it is, but locate the master suite on the proposed new third story, but that got us into trouble with the historic preservation because we needed a larger addition in order to accommodate the master suite on the roof. And it brought up some visibility and massing issues, and also required the removal of some of the existing roof structure, which is considered to be historic fabric by historic preservation. So the final proposal submitted to them that was approved is to keep the master suite on the second floor, but in order to make all of that work, we basically need that additional 1'8". And that is what we are asking for. I think Nicole would like to address the community and the commissioners as well.
Yes, I just wanted to kind of give a little history. I mean, I used to live in the home as a single person, I guess almost 15 years ago. I stayed there for 5 years, got married and moved out to the suburbs, stayed there for 10 years, and every year the traffic got worse, and we were trying to make our way back to the district, but just didn't see how we would be able to get the space out of the home that I lived in previously, that I was renting out. Until we actually started exploring other neighbors who had done similar things. One dug a basement, the other one expanded their second floor. So that's really what essentially we're doing. As you see, I have a 5-year-old husband, and I also have a soon-to-be college graduate that's coming back home, and has already secured a job in DC and has claimed a bedroom, so. So we need all of the space. We're gonna use every square foot. We're not interested in flipping anything. We just need the living space and are excited about returning back to the district, so that's all.
Okay. Before I take comments or anything from those folks in the audience, I have a couple of questions for our friend Katerina. She attended the zoning and subcommittee meeting on Thursday, and we asked two things of you. We asked you to bring us letters of support from the neighbors. I have not received any, so the question is, do you have them? Number one. And number two was you've talked to your contractors, and construction will not begin until 8 a.m. Is that correct?
Correct. And we will provide a more complete construction management plan.
Okay. For those of you who live right there, you know how the district has them starting at 7, and deliveries and all sorts of stuff happen at 6, and sometimes before that, and the trucks are idling, and all the noise and discomfort that is associated with any kind of construction. I have gone on my pedestal and said, I hate the noise, and I hate that early morning being woken up 6 days a week. And so I've started asking contractors and developers if they will start their construction at 8 rather than 7, because most people are getting up to go to work and they don't care about the noise at 8 o'clock, where if they are jolted out of bed at 7 o'clock with the ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom as the workers start their day, and it's just my thing. So I've asked each of a couple now to consider an 8 o'clock start time so we're not distracting and disturbing all the neighbors, and I hope you all agree with me on that. Okay, so did we get letters of support?
So right before the meeting, Marge, I emailed the first one, which was I can't remember his name now.
Jerry Dale.
Jerry, and then Tony, just sent me Tony. So there are 2 letters from the left neighbor and from the right neighbor. And welcome back to the neighborhood.
Thank you.
So this is in my area, and Ridge Street is very popular for any sort of development currently. We currently have 6 things going on right now on this 1 block street. So it's very, very busy. That said, we certainly, and I'm just, speaking for myself, and I'm speaking for the majority of the constituents. This is an overall high-level type thing. We understand your need for space. The problem lies in with the request for the lot occupancy for increase. We cannot, my people, myself, Commissioner Ira, cannot support it because once we get the ball rolling, because other people want this. This is what they're telling, what they want. Whether it's Ridge Street and all of them, and the majority of people do not want these additions. And that's the problem. So it's not that we don't want you to have another bedroom, we understand your need for your family. It is always giving in to, these relief requests. And what'll be the next request? That's our concern. But I have constituents here who would like to speak to. And there's 2 neighbors who are you're behind the street, behind the alley neighbors too. Hello?
2 minutes.
Okay. So this is Commissioner Goring. She lives behind, she owns property behind the alley.
Yes, and again, we said the same thing is, HBRB, I've always had a problem with what they decide that they give permission to do, which is not necessarily what we like or what we want in our neighborhood. And the 2 don't mix. Sometimes I wish that they would say, yes, we can do such and such, like without going in the middle of the small houses, and you're going up a story, 2 houses on each side aren't going up. Where you want to go out in your backyard, basically, and take a couple of feet in your backyard, I have no qualms with that. But HBRB decides you can go up, block my view, make things look odd to me, but they won't let you take your, so, and once you do that, you got like teeth missing out of your mouth, or somebody puts in windows, but HBRB says, oh, we can put in big windows. If I want to change my windows, I can't change my windows, So sometimes we're really, fighting more with HBRB than we are with the actual person who wants to do something logical. And we can't change it because HBRB is much more powerful than all of us. So once you say you give this, then we're giving them even more power.
And so this is going to be zoning. We're going to go on for the Board of Zoning.
Okay,
Yeah.
zoning,
Yeah.
the same thing. So that's where I have a problem with, giving one person the same thing, and then it's a little block.
And so it's the nature. If you had come like 3 years ago, 2 years, even 2 years ago, everyone would have been like, fine.
That's not true.
Well, okay, so from Member Smart. But when I say that we literally have 6 things going on in that small street, no exaggeration. And then right around the corner at 4th and Ridge, that thing is coming soon. So it's a lot of stuff, and people are now realizing the more that we allow these variances to happen, it causes a lot of grief. And it's unfortunate, but I know I can't. So in there we have Miss Martin and we have Tip.
I'll let him speak.
Okay.
I think he's gonna say something different.
Okay, Tip.
I live over at 444.
Tip is the 4th house from this.
Yeah, and the 4 of our houses were built together in 1876. These are wooden houses. And I support what she's trying to do, because especially when you talk about she has a kid right now. And I live in my house by myself, and the second bedroom pretty much is a closet. There's no space in these houses. And when you talk about a family, you can't send the message that that you won't be able to grow your family or expand your family in this house. It can and should be allowed to grow as your family grows. As you well know, right next door to me is 446 through something. There's 4 lots, and the Historic Preservation Review Board and the zoning BZA have approved 3 stories over there. Now, are we sending the message that if you have a vacant lot, you can build 3 stories, but if you protected your house and repaired your house? Because I remember when she moved into this house, the people who lived in that house, there were joists and no subfloor. So they had 2 pieces of plywood that they would slide across until you actually got to where you were going or you walked across Joyce. She spent a lot of money to actually take care of that house. These are wooden houses, as I said. If you really wanted to do something, you take the gutters down, these things will be gone in 2 years because they would wood rot and the termite damage that are in these places, they could easily fall down. So if we're telling people that the only way you can do 3 stories is if you have a vacant lot, I think we're sending the wrong message. We've heard the stories from everybody from zoning and HPRB about how this is a neighborhood and it's not a museum and how it's livable and it's porous. You have to be able to expand these small houses to make them suitable for an occupancy for a family that's going to expand and grow. I was one of the people who pushed for our historic preservation designation back in '98. And some of the things that I've seen them approve on our street is just like an abomination. They've already approved 3 stories. They're already 3 stories. And so for us to tell people again that because you have a house that you've taken care of and have not allowed it to fall into disrepair and just fall apart, we're not going to approve your expansion. I have pictures of other places on M Street and even on Ridge Street where people did just that. Before we became an historic district, they allowed their places to fall into disrepair and they got a demo permit. So I would say today, if you're going to try to deny her expansion, you ought to approve a demo permit. But you cannot tell people that they cannot let these places grow. These houses, they're occupied by people who live there. And I think we should be able to meet our needs.
Okay.
Ms. Martin?
I support the project.
Okay.
Okay, I actually came here to talk generally about what our neighborhood should be and what we had planned it to be many years ago. But on a personal note, if you are doing construction at your house and you are building, where, are you using a bulldozer or shovels or what? Because if you plan to use, you cannot use that alley to build anything because you'll be blocking my access to the back of my yard. That alley is extremely small and trucks barely can get up that alley. So how are you getting into it anyway? Through your front door?
No, they have to.
No, they have to use the alley.
Use the alley to access it.
It's not going to happen because 9 times out of 10, it's going to destroy the carriage houses on the back. And I'm right behind you.
They have small equipment that they use for,
Okay.
there are small
Yeah,
pieces of
they don't have
equipment
the
for
plan.
tiny urban
Okay,
areas.
tell me
It's gonna be a very
anything. Okay.
painstaking process. but-
This is the whole thing, is that my name is Clary Martin, and I've lived on the block for 37 years. And I have been involved in basically the zoning and historic preservation throughout the neighborhood many, many years ago. Haven't been involved recently. But the whole idea about our zoning is to maintain a place for people to live and to afford to live. Now, way back 30 years ago, we were concerned about the downtown development and developers coming up from Massachusetts Avenue and putting pressure on M Street and Ridge Street and N Street, tearing those houses down or building things that no one could afford to live in. And what the zoning has done in our neighborhood is kind of like kept it not on M Street. On Ridge Street, it has kept the prices of housing down. Ridge Street is probably one of the few places in Shaw right now where the housing is affordable for people, regular people. What we're doing, your house, if we allow you to build a 3rd story on your house, you will be, I think, the first person who will have built a 3rd story on a pre-existing building, a 18th century building, correct? It would be the very first. Yes, we've allowed 3-story buildings on vacant lots. I have opposed it, but nevertheless, they have been allowed. But this will be the first time that we will have allowed someone to build on one of those historic little buildings. I recognize they're small, but I remember probably 40 years ago when people had 5 people living in those buildings. People raised families in those little houses. And then when I moved in 37 years ago, there were a group of young men who moved on that block and changed it, got rid of the drug trafficking, thank goodness. But they moved in and they loved those little houses, and many of them knocked out made open space. But it wasn't about building more space, it was utilizing and appreciating the space you have. I agree. You may not want to put 5 children in that house. But in that case, when I was growing up, when people outgrew their homes, they moved. They didn't change their homes because they appreciated the neighborhood that they moved into and didn't want to change it. And that's what I suggest you do. Either stay in the suburbs or find another place that is stay in the suburbs or either find
Okay, Ms.
another
Martin.
house, excuse me, or find another place in DC. But don't change Ridge Street. Don't change Ridge Street. And that's what you're proposing to do. And if the ANC goes along with this, this will be the beginning of the end of Ridge Street as we know it.
And let me just, that is the main point. Once you allow one, you acknowledge this is the first one on top of a historic building.
Yes.
There are, 2 people have already come to me, and they are waiting for this. And we do not want the character of that block, and we don't want to, it's not about you, it's not personally about you, it is the character of the street.
Can I address that for 1 second? Getting historic preservation to support this project was not easy. It was very difficult. And we managed to do it because we showed that we were willing to compromise and scaled down on the project significantly. My client is not coming in here trying to build a mansion. What we're proposing is a very modest increase in size to the house. So I just want to ask that we backtrack just for a second. What we're asking for is a special exception for lot occupancy. The 3rd story does not require a variance or a special exception. That is, she is legally allowed to do that. And she is allowed to do that because we have designed it in a way that is sensitive to the historic character of the townhouse. That is why Historic Preservation approved it for the first time. They have not approved these in the past. We came to them with willingness to compromise and be sensitive to their requirements and to work with them. So we reduced the size of the house significantly. We basically addressed every concern that they raised. And their concerns, although they may be different from the community concerns, they are really, they are given that authority to defend the community's concerns too, and specifically the historic preservation issues. Those things do overlap, they do reinforce each other. We have revised the design 3 times and scaled it back significantly in order to make this possible with the least disruption to the neighborhood. We kept the heights to the absolute minimum code-wise, so you were talking about obstruction.